Good evening, Cheeseheads, and welcome to the Cheese Room podcast. I'm your host, The Caller. I'm not in the man cave. Far too cold. In fact, I'm in the dining room, and it's so cold, I might go and get a hoodie. I'm also running low on beer, and I have to walk all the way to the man cave to get more beer. There's real first world problems on this show tonight. We probably should have started earlier because we were just chatting shit, and it was quite entertaining. So we might just go back to doing that, given there's not that much to talk about right now. It is Friday the 27th, the day after Diver the Fiber's birthday, 56 yesterday, and my daughter's won, so shout out to her today. First of all, introducing first in the red corner, only because you've got an American flag that's got some red in it, HG. There's no connection to Arsenal, let's be really clear. It's our Ghanaian TV Tottenham Hotspur correspondent, HG.
Yeah, hi. Look, two things. One, my granddad is a Gooner, or was a Gooner, so there's some connection to Arsenal. My dad was born in Islington, for crying out loud. And secondly, when you said you had what was one, I was like, she's won the tree of life to have you as. Is that it? Is that what she's won? Sorry.
Maybe. Maybe. And secondly, introducing, he's unplugged his fax machine this week and decided to join Twitter.
Yes.
Dave, welcome to the 21st century. Doubled his follow account for him today. If you could do the same for him, Jack and HG, that'd be really good. Just put it out there. Follow this guy. He's really funny. After a while, they'll catch on that he's absolutely not. But anyway, Dave, how are you, Mr. Social Influencer?
Mate, it's just been a week for me. I've had a couple of trolls. I think someone's accused me of being a tool so far, and it's not someone who's related to me either. I've got a tool, just accused me of being a tool, and I've commented mostly on Tottenham, a little bit of a little bit of stuff about whether Oasis will get back together, all the relevant modern topics to discuss on social media.
Yeah, I mean, you are so relevant and modern. That's what we can say. And also, welcome back to the show. He's getting ready to tearfully wave off Gil Messi at the airport. It is Flat Cap Jack. How are you? And are you feeling a bit forlorn knowing that Gil Messi probably won't be with us for much longer?
Yeah, no, it's a bit of a U-turn that they've pulled on me. Just when I thought that Gil Messi was safest, he's now apparently, could be headed out the door. It's the opposite scenario you would think of. The cliche saying of, I'll pay for the taxi to get him out of here, or, I'll pay for the plane to get him out. It's almost like the exact opposite. It's like, I'll pay whatever it costs to, to stop that plane from being, taken off, to Sevilla, basically. So we'll get into it later. But yeah, caller, it's definitely a U-turn that I didn't expect, and so not in the best of spirits.
Disappointing because he's done quite well, hasn't he? But there you go.
It's all part of the prophecy.
We're previewing Preston North End in the Cup. We'll keep you up to date with Pep versus Lego Head, and discuss the Spurs January window, and take questions from viewers. So drop your questions in the chat.
Is that game on now?
I thought it was, but is it not?
I'm asking. I don't know. Is it?
I'm not interested. Been busy.
Because if it is, no, I'm not. I don't care. I don't care at all. I hope they both lose, bastards.
Yeah. Well, I think the best we can hope for is they all get injured.
Yeah.
No.
And disqualified.
And that's enough on that.
There you go.
Can I just say that although this comment is meant to be a little bit of a joke and a cuss, I did grow up with a telex machine in my house. So, yeah, it's true.
What's a telex machine?
So basically, a telex machine is before the fax machine, right? And it's a bit like you had to write it in special code. So my late father did a lot of business in the Far East, in the schmutter business, and he had a telex machine in the house. So yes, we did have a telex machine.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Surprising you haven't still got it, to be honest, and using it in your day-to-day walk of life. But there you go. This will be the 10th FA Cup tie between Preston North End and Tottenham, apparently. But apparently, the first in the fourth round since 1967-68. A game won by Spurs 3-0. Davo, you were probably there. Any memories?
Well, I was there actually, and it was a year that Sergeant Pepper had been released, and obviously we were the current FA Cup holders at the time, something which the Enic ownership wouldn't know about.
Are we going there already?
No, I just thought I'd drop one in.
A good warm up,
like a sneaky little jab.
Correct.
Okay. So there you go. Preston. Any of you been to Preston North End? Jack, you ever been there?
Recently learned of its location. I have heard of Preston North End, the club. I have little thought of the town. If it is a town, is it considered a city or is it considered a town, would you say?
It's a town. Yeah, it's a town.
And
it's not big. It's not got a cathedral.
My original guess was that it was actually on the south coast, but we have found out actually, caller, that it's north of Manchester. Kind of what would you say? Is it kind of like Burnley in a way? Is it similar to like a Burnley?
No, it's not that far.
Burnley.
It's not far, but yeah, in between the two. It's like an offshoot of Manchester.
Okay.
I've driven through it a few times.
Is it where the Mancurians go to vacation on the coast, really?
No, because it's nowhere near the coast. No.
Yeah, it's inland, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I say nowhere near the coast compared to most of the states. Everywhere's near the coast. But yeah, it's definitely a town. Just on that, Americans call everything a city, don't they? Pretty much.
I definitely do not, but probably I would imagine. I think a lot of people are maybe, hometown proud or home city proud. They want theirs to be maybe slightly bigger than what it really is. They inflate the numbers. They inflate the numbers. Maybe a lot of cities, I would imagine. And I think a lot of places call themselves a city. They're definitely not probably cities.
There you go, Lindy, bringing the facts.
There's no need, especially we already have so many cities. It's not like we need any more of them. No need to add to the list.
The first motorway in the UK. That's the M1, isn't it?
Yeah, but how does that work that Preston is known for the first motorway in the UK? So what, within Preston there was a motorway and that was the first motorway? I mean,
don't argue with my mother. Don't argue with my mother. You will lose.
I think you're on dodgy ground.
By the way, does anyone know who would like to go on holiday with my mum's friend? Because my mum doesn't.
Your mum what?
Doesn't.
She doesn't want to.
Yeah. There you go. It was from London to Preston. I thought it went a bit higher than Preston, but there you go. I wasn't around when it was built, so Dave, you must know that.
What? Motorways in Preston? It's my specialist knowledge. Yes.
The first highway.
I've been to Preston. In my brief advertising career, I went to Preston's foremost radio station called Rock FM, and it was in an old church, and I had a meeting there. That is as far as my Preston anecdotes go. Over to you, HG.
Got a Preston anecdote?
I went once to Preston. I stayed there to go to the Grand National of 1997, which was the one that they threatened to blow up, and so the race was cancelled on the Saturday. And so on the Monday evening, I managed to get behind Des Lynam on BBC One. You can see me, and I had this really tall blue and white felt hat that was the rage in the mid to late 90s. And so you could just about make the corner of my hat in the corner of the screen, but it was definitely me. That's my memory of Preston. All I remember is I actually won some money at the races. And so in true 19-year-old style, I went to McDonald's and splurged.
Yeah, double quarter pounder with cheese from it, Can't
beat. Oh no, I got much more than that. Like I fed me and my two friends, and we ate enough for probably 4 people. It was mental. I mean,
milkshakes for everyone.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
hardcore gambler, you HG.
That was when I did. Back then, that's when I did, but I don't do it anymore. But yeah, I won. I'm actually pretty good at the National. I won on Little Polveer when I was 11. Yeah. My dad put his £1 on the National and it came in. I got like 27 quid and bought myself a skateboard. If you really want stories, but
I've actually got a friend who supports Preston North End. I'll have to tap him up. and I spoke to him for a while. Would have been useful if I tapped him up prior to the show, but there you go. 11th in the Championship, 2 points behind the top six. They've been playing 3-5-2 in recent matches, and they're looking to reach the fifth round for the first time since 2014-15 when they fell to Manchester United, local rivals. Leading goal scorer is Ched Evans, and the goalkeeper is Freddie Woodman, whose godfather is Gareth Southgate, would you believe? There you go, bringing you all the knowledge you need. On loan, we have Troy Parrott in Preston, which is repeated in the run sheet repeatedly. Why is that, Davo, given you wrote the damn thing?
Because it's a parrot joke.
Oh my God, that is so terrible. It went over my head.
Yeah, it says more about you than it does about the joke, to be fair.
On loan is... I'll do it. See if you find it funny. On loan is Troy Parrott. On loan is Troy Parrott. On loan is Troy Parrott.
Come on. Listen, I did the run sheet tonight, and I've had to research Preston, for God's sake. It's a tough job.
Yeah. It is a tough gig. On loan striker from Manchester City, Liam Delap, I've heard of him actually, is ineligible as he played for Stoke in the previous round. So there we go. Any knowledge of Preston whatsoever, any of you?
I mean, to be fair, caller, I want to know what you know. I want to know what you know about Liam Delap.
Football Manager. I've seen him on Football Manager.
No, come on. There's a more obvious thing about Liam Delap. Come on.
Well, probably brother of or sibling or something of what?
Go on, we're listening.
Son. Oh my God, is it? How old was he when he had him?
We're just old, caller. That's the issue. We're old, not Rory Delap.
Isn't it? Rory Delap. I mean, it only seems like it was yesterday. He had the throw-in that was like a scud, wasn't it? It was massive from Stoke. Yeah. Oh my God. Preston had the first KFC. Are you making these up?
To be fair, my mum doesn't.
First motorway and first true. KFC. You would think it was London.
Absolutely winning.
We don't like foreign muck.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Adrian says, I believe Preston's famous for high unemployment and poverty. Okay. Yeah. So there we go.
Well, come on, but Rory Delap, what's he most known for, caller?
Throwing the ball miles.
Yeah, there we go. So and they always had a towel on the side. The ball boys all had a towel on the side of the pitch.
That's right, yeah. I said that. Why are you making me go back over it?
You thought it was his brother for some reason.
Well, it just doesn't seem that it's possible that he's got a kid that's old enough. Either that or I've just aged like really and it's passed me by, maybe. I don't know. Here's an easy test. Jack, how old are you?
25.
Do you remember Rory Delap?
Absolute not. Absolute nicked.
Okay, I'm old. Let's talk Tottenham. Tottenham are aiming to advance past the fourth round of the FA Cup for the fourth consecutive season, which would be their greatest streak of advancement since doing so for 5 straight seasons between 78-79 and 1982-83. Of course.
Yeah.
Does it count?
Yes,
does it count as a trophy, Dave? Is this?
Well, I hate to actually torpedo that comedy line you just said, because in that streak of 5 years, we won the FA Cup twice. So it does count because we lifted the trophy twice and I saw it. But nice argument.
Spurs have lost.
There's 2 6 rounds in that, and two winning the FA Cups in 5 straight seasons. I think we'd all be happy with that, wouldn't we? Now.
Don't know really. I like to aim a bit higher really than the FA Cup, but there you go. It's just me. So yeah, we've lost in the 5th round of the FA Cup in the past 3 seasons. Most recently to Middlesbrough. Everyone remember that fixture, surely?
I try every day.
Your hero, Harold Winks had a great game that night.
Oh my God! How do I even start with that clown? I don't want to. He's not coming back, is he, HG? There's no chance Harold Winks is coming back, is there?
I don't think so. No, I think Sampdoria desperately need him after his assist at the weekend when his team lost 1-0 and it was Harry Winks' back header that put the guy through. So he scored.
No way.
No, I'm being a bit mean on Winks, but the ball came in and Winks is trying to get to the ball and head it, and he ended up flicking it over his own defender who was behind him, and it just fell to the guy's feet about
On the scale
8
of
yards out.
On the scale of Eric Dyer's flick on to Mo Salah, up like maybe 1 to 10, what would you say it was?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
Sorry,
you don't remember Eric
like,
Dyer's that giveaway he gave to Mo Salah this season?
No.
Oh wow! I think that was one of the worst goals.
I remember when Longley did it. That was more
That's
recent.
fair.
But
Yeah.
no, look, it wasn't Winks' fault. Winks is doing all he can to head the ball away. It just happened, headed it straight to the opposition who put it in. But so I don't know if it counts as an assist, but it wouldn't be for his team. It'd be for I think they played Udinese. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But he's not coming back.
Of course it matters. You better not be. I wake up in the night with cold sweats about that.
Collar and I will both be at the airport trying to stop planes. Basically, one for Messi and the other one for Winks arriving.
Exactly right. Exactly right. I just don't want to be Dembele, Lo Celso. We've got so much crap out on loan, haven't we? It's just, and if Pochettino comes back, as HG said the other day, they're all coming back. He's gonna put Winks in that midfield straight away. It's not good. It's not good.
I mean,
anyway, I've got some lovely graphics for us. Go on, HG. What were you going to say?
No, look, about these players coming back on loan. Like, isn't it that Napoli have some kind of option, but it's quite expensive, so you wouldn't really think they'll do that. And then Villarreal have an option which is less expensive, so they might well do that. Only maybe like Emery's gone, so Lo Celso might think I don't really fancy Villarreal anymore. So there's a pretty good chance that all of them are coming back in the summer, and then we got to do the whole thing again.
Yeah, well, oh God. Well, look, we might see the debut of this chap at the weekend, Dan Juma, Jack, and Dave and HG. It would be good to fill a couple of minutes strategically while I go for and refill my glass, get a hoodie because I'm a bit chilly.
Work here is done.
And I know you've done a show. I know you've done a show on this geezer. So if you could tell us all about him, that would be amazing. And HG and Davo can cross-examine.
With Danjuma, I would say I'm kind of just happy in general we brought any sort of competition for Sonny. I was kind of, if we are to keep Hill around or keep anybody to, be that understudy to Kulusevski, I think we are in need to have somebody maybe fill in for Sonny in case he just continues to go down this poor run of form where he isn't really able to contribute much of anything. And that's why I was a little disappointed we didn't get Trossard or really didn't go after that, because it felt like kind of an Enic signing, if anything, because it was an opportunistic signing. It felt like for us where it was on the cheap and could have been, like cheaper, let's say, than what he normally would go for. And they still kind of haggled over it and we got swooped and hijacked. But you still look at it as a guy who had a really good last season. And I actually got to see some of those games for Villarreal last season because they did kind of they were a bit of giant killers. They knocked out Bayern. I believe there's another big team that they knocked out that maybe it was Juventus or something like that. I'm trying to remember.
Juventus, yeah, I think it was,
yeah. So it's not like they had like an easy, lucky route like to that semifinal. They took some real scalps on that road. And Danjuma had something like 6 goals and 2 assists, which basically means he probably played a major role in that route to the Champions League semifinal. So it shows that he's coming off a very good last season, maybe with kind of Unai Emery leaving and some other players having left, and just sort of also I think La Liga getting a bit more boring every year. Maybe he just is kind of looking for that move to maybe a tougher competition, higher stakes, higher just a greater competition level, and that obviously would be the Premier League. And playing for, initially it was going to look like a relegation side with Everton. That's what he was willing to take on in order to go to the Premier League, but then he was given a bailout to Tottenham Hotspur, where maybe it's a different type of scenery, that's for sure. But I'm excited about Danjuma more just because of the fact that he is somebody to challenge Sonny. He offers things kind of similar to Sonny. He's, a left winger, can play as like a second striker, kind of like Sonny can. likes to sort of, take on his man and cut inside. I don't know. I'm excited about it. He has a bit of flair to his game too, which if he maybe pulls off a few tricks and an FA Cup or, a future game, that could get some people off their seats, and who knows, maybe win some people over.
I have two things on this, and my train of thought was gone now because I've seen that City have gone 1-0 up, really good news. But the thing with Danjuma I don't get, right? You talked about that Trossard was a perfect Enic signing because it was kind of opportunistic and it was a little bit cheaper than normal. Like, surely what we've done is even more Enic by getting someone that's a 6-month loan. There'll be a loan fee and his wages. Like we've got a lot cheaper to get Danjuma, but I think he's a better player. I think he's more suited to us than Trossard would have been. So I'm not upset with that angle. And secondly, maybe we're now seeing that the reason why Sonny was so good last year and is bad now is because he even Bergwijn behind him. Actually, Steven Bergwijn is the reason that Son was good last year. As soon as Son went to pot, and I was a big Bergwijn fan. I'm not going to lie. I wanted him to stick around. I still think he's a very good player, and it kind of feels like, as I said in my silly little Facebook page, feels like we let Kylie Minogue go, and we brought in Danny Minogue instead. I'm just not sure that was a particularly wise move. Having Danny Minogue is better than having no Australian singer of the 90s. But but Bergwijn is a better player than Danjuma, and I'm sad that Bergwijn is gone. But anyway, that was my
Isn't
thought.
the explanation maybe with Bergwijn is that Bergwijn basically didn't want to play underneath. He was making fuss up basically about playing underneath a golden boot winning left winger, where maybe if he was just a tiny bit more patient, he would basically have had his opportunity this season to, challenge Sonny more realistically, because Sonny's not actually playing as well. That's what I'm kind of thinking. Maybe Bergwijn had his chance if he was just a bit more patient.
So before we get into this, so Jack, do you know who the Minogue sisters are?
Absolute nicked again.
Well, there's Kylie Minogue, who I think she's had a couple of American hits, but way back in the day. And then there's a lesser talented sister, Danny Minogue, both Australian sisters. I'm very upset that HG's been rude about Danny Minogue, because one of the greatest days in the history of the world was October the 20th, 1971, when there's Danny Minogue was born, Snoop Dogg was born, and I was born. So for HG to slag off, if HG's slagging off Danny Minogue, he's slagging me off and my family and Snoop, because every year I get together with Snoop, Danny, to celebrate the birthday. So other than that nonsense, Danjuma, I mean, if you said to me at the start of the window, but by the 25th of January, we're going to have a loan signing of an ex-Bournemouth player who did nothing in the Premier League and has been exiled to Villarreal, I'd have this small sense of being underwhelmed. So we need to get a right wing back, and I reckon Porro is going to be done. I reckon Chelsea are going to come in for Porro. It's all going to fall apart anyway.
I think they signed that Malo Gusto guy from Lyon, which sort of is weird because they signed him for the summer and they wanted to sign him for now, but they did secure his signature for the summer. So I'm a bit confused what that, knowing Chelsea, they'll just sign another right wing back still, and forget about the one that they signed in the summer. And but I don't know. They did sign the guy that they were supposedly looking at, and maybe Pedro Porro being hijacked by them is less of a chance now.
You see, that's a very nice comment.
That's it. They couldn't get Porro, so they just thought, right, we'll have to sign this loser from whose name translates as like bad wind or something stupid like that. Like literally, I think Malo Gusto is like wind or something. But anyway, look, or bad taste. Gusto might be taste. I always get that, but anyway, it's yeah, I don't know. But look, I was joking about Bergwijn. I know Bergwijn wanted to go, and as one of the comments said, Danjuma is a bit bigger, which is, if he wants to hold the ball up, he might be better than Sonny is, because Sonny can't do it at all. But yeah, look, I'm happy that we got Danjuma because I needed someone, right? Like as Dave said, we need other positions more, let's say, for the first team. But Son's been awful all year, and we haven't been able to switch him out really at any point. So for various reasons, but to have an extra body that Conte, you would hope, trusts can only be a good thing.
Yeah, I always said at the end of the window that, and sorry about this, Jack, but our 5th and 6th choice up top was subpar, which includes Hill and Lucas Moura. So I think we've done something about it. I mean, it does look like Hill will go out on loan. Moura's got 6 months left on his contract, and we're not going to renew. And for some reason, there's a gaggle of birds outside my window.
Go on, shoot them off, Dave. Shoot them off. It's not the first time there's been a gaggle of birds outside Dave's window.
I feel like I'm in
let's be honest.
Dave, you budgie smuggler.
In an observatory.
You're such a budgie smuggler.
I was in my budgie smugglers on Australia Day on Thursday. It's true.
Oh, Christ almighty. Danny Minogue ain't got nothing on you, Dave, surely.
And Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
So did you go outside?
The same age.
Did you go outside, Caller, and mug some teenager with their hooded top?
This is a Red Bull Racing top. Thank you very much.
Is there some Uber Eats cyclist lying on the ground outside your house, robbed of their jumper?
Well, no, because I live in like a little private road, so there wouldn't be anyone outside my house. Thank you.
A private road? What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, it's an unadopted. It's not adopted by the council or anything. So it's we pay for the private drive and I have like.
So is that a Barrett home? Do you live in a Barrett home, Caller?
No.
David Wilson.
No, David. Yeah.
Oh, right. You do. You live in a David Wilson home. Sorry, Mum, if you're watching, I know you. No. My mum gets it. That was just for her. But okay, brilliant.
I like David Wilson. Yes.
Davo seems to live with birds by the.
Davo lives in an aviary. That's where he lives. No, it's a nice little private drive. 3 of the houses. No, don't have to put it with anyone outside. It's beautiful.
Have you got a barrier across the end of your road and a security guard?
Yeah, it says no Daves allowed.
Like Caller lives in a tiny village, like population 300 maybe. I mean, it's not a big place. Probably in the middle of nowhere, near the motorway. It's basically where Caller lives, and
other houses are
available. And they would probably be better than David Wilson or Barrett. Which
probably you should see the snag list of this place when I moved in. Christ Almighty! But there you go. I had a crisis. To answer your original question, I went to the man cave because I've got the beer tap is in the man cave, so I'm pouring myself a pint, and unfortunately the barrel ran out halfway down, so I've got half a pint. So check this out. I've had to resort to that.
Oh. No.
Oh my God.
I don't even drink and I know that's rubbish.
It's bad times. It's bad times. The only reason it was in the man cave is because I hosted a party and they brought a load of that round. So, yeah, I didn't have time. I thought I need to rush back to the cheese room. I don't have time to change the barrel. So there you go.
Your mum's got a lot of facts tonight. There's a lot of facts.
She knows a lot. She knows a lot about Barrett and David Wilson homes, but that's it for now. We're not doing that anymore.
Spitting facts. You don't drink buds out of the bottle, duh. What's that mean?
No way someone pours out a beer from a Budweiser into a glass.
No way.
It's never belongs.
No, I might do though, because my tankard looks nicer than a Bud bottle. If I'd have put it in there, you'd never have known, would you?
No.
So someone before put up a really nice comment about Jack, really nice, and Adrian asked if I was born. Like, what am I, like some kind of devil, dark spirit? Which is true, actually. There we go.
Yeah, exactly. So look, Dan Juma, he may feature at the weekend. We've got some quotes from Stellini, who did the press conference. He's available. Everyone's available. We only have one problem with Harry Kane. Ooh. He's had a bit of illness, a bit of a sniffle. No, he feels I've got a bit of a cold right now. And there you go. So we may not see Kane break Greaves' record, I suppose, this weekend. On Danjuma, he's got experience because he played a good Champions League last season. He can play striker, winger, etc. And yeah, right now as a number 10 or a striker, this is the way we want to work with him. So there we go. How did that get in there? It's almost like I dropped it in deliberately to send Jack over the edge. Bryan Gill. Oh dear. We'll come on to this. There's Preston. There you go. You can see Delap there, who is Rory Delap's son. On the right. And you can see they there was a time, I'm sure, where they could only score one goal, but they clearly have moved on from that. Got a shout out to Leon, who's become our newest YouTube member. Well done, Leon. You've unlocked a load of custom features. He also knows that as a channel member, you get priority shout outs over everybody else. So therefore, he's thrown us one straight out of the blocks. With Levy out. Thanks, Leon. Thanks for your support. If you want to support the Cheese Room with a membership, do have a look at it. It's good stuff. You get a load of custom emojis, priority shout-outs, etc. There you go. If that's not a ringing endorsement, I don't know what is.
He's already feeling it.
And while we've got your attention, we also have our Patreon memberships available. Please do head over to patreon.com/Cheese Room Podcast. £3 a month, you get to converse with all the podcasters from the pods, from the YouTube, and a whole community. I think there's over 80 people in the chat, and they talk all day long about football. We've also got exclusive content, prizes and discounts, Cheese Room merch, which Davo is beautifully modelling. I do love this graphic because it's got you and your favourite bloke on it, and fancy with some great prizes.
I've got a really shit haircut in that. Can we change it? And I don't like being seen with.
Not sure. But another new member could. Thank you very much to THFC Till I Die. We appreciate your support. What I would say is as well, we're going to do some member shows coming up soon. So you'll obviously have priority over those, and we're going to refresh the custom emojis which you've now unlocked. Davo is my favourite. Yeah, he's my favourite too. Actually, yeah, he's my favourite too.
Jinx.
And Lindy wants to point out there's 80 people watching and only 30 likes. So please do smash that like button. Harry's Leon's getting the most out of this already.
Can I just say Leon's a very cool guy, not just because he agrees with me on Enic, but also Leon's got exemplary music taste. So I don't know if you can follow him on Twitter or something like that. But listen, he's got great music recommendations.
Listen to you 1 week on Twitter, and you're like, just hit him up.
Yeah, follow Leon. He's got great taste in music.
Okay. So the last time we met Preston in the League Cup was 2009-10 season when Tottenham won 5-1 with this Peter Crouch goal. He, in fact, scored a hat-trick. So my challenge to you guys is, can you name the Spurs team from that day? Jack, you're going to struggle.
I'm very much going to struggle. I think I started supporting in 2010-11, so this was at the ripe old age of 12 years old, Jack and Nicky. I did know of Peter Crouch, though, at that time. At 12 years old, I did know of the Peter Crouch.
Wait, hang on a second, Jack. Are you seriously telling us that when we were first in the Champions League, not only was that why you supported us, but also you were only 12?
Actually, Jack, I'm interested.
This is really actually what Enic wanted to achieve, HG. That's exactly what he wanted to achieve.
No wonder you can't remember who frickin' Rory Delap is.
So Jack, what I'm always interested to know, what made you start to support Tottenham?
I would probably say Gareth Bale was one of the major reasons at the time. And then also kind of the end of the Redknapp era was kind of was kind of fun. It seemed like, a good crashing ship, to jump into at the time. And then AVB was my reward. So it was a...
So expect to see Jack on a golf podcast in the next year or two as he follows Gareth Bale into his next venture.
Exactly right. I'm not really. I think it was like Gareth Bale. Also, as well, like there was a lot of like moving factors, but also DeAndre Yedlin is technically from my hometown of Seattle. That was like a thing that pushed me a little further. I think I was already a Spurs fan by that stage, but that definitely pushed me further. Just a lot of things came into place, let's say. at
Yeah.
that time.
Yeah. Actually, we should go back to guessing this team, shouldn't we?
There's a
Sorry.
lot of there's a lot of former Americans or Yanks that have played for Spurs as well, with Dempsey and Friedel, etc. too. So
I
think
was
that
saying
kind of
this
part
the
of
other day. I had no one decent.
Yeah, we've never
Oh.
had any. I'd say never any of the good ones. If
And
there
the
are
Americans-
any good
probably
ones,
had-
are there any good ones?
The
Maybe now
Americans
there
were
are.
slightly outraged, to be honest, but yeah.
They were.
So, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
happy with that. So it's fine. Right, gents, name this team then. Come on.
Well,
and you can play along in the chat.
it's it's really easy because you've got Crouch.
2009.
Crouch.
Robbie Keane.
Robbie Keane was not playing. He was on the bench.
Okay, because I've seen the picture of Crouch and Keane celebrating this week, so it must have come off the bench. But okay, 2000 was he said 2009, 10, 8, 9.
Yeah.
Are you
Zakora?
buying time? You're
Was he
Googling.
around then?
I'll do.
Oh,
I'll do. What about Palacios?
Palacios was playing.
He signed
Yeah.
later.
No,
What?
he
No, he
played.
signed earlier. No, he signed earlier.
played.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, you,
Yeah.
all right.
He signed 08, 09. I think he signed 08. I reckon he signed January 09 off the top of my head. So you got Crouch, you got Defoe. It looked like in the background.
Defoe's there. Yeah.
We got Palacios. Did Modric play?
Modric did not play. No, I think he was on the bench. No, he wasn't even on the bench.
Asuba-
There you go.
Asuakoto.
Go on.
No, Disco
Flores.
Benny. No.
Okay. Dawson.
Dawson was playing.
Okay.
And some people in the chat are getting Huddleston.
Yeah, I was going to say Huddleston. I was going to
played,
guess
yeah.
that. Yeah.
The incredible Hud.
Gomez.
Gomez was in goal.
Yeah. And then was Hutton right back.
Hutton was indeed right back. Yeah, Dave's on a roll.
So you got Hutton, Dawson, Benny. Who would have been? Ledley wouldn't have played. Gallas.
No, Gallas didn't play. No. Dawson and Huddleston actually played as centre backs.
Oh, did
Oh,
they?
really? Because someone said Basong, but okay.
No.
Then you got Ralph Coates.
So if you think about it, you've got Gomez in goal, Hutton on the
Yeah.
right, Dawson
Yeah.
and Huddleston. Who was left
Yeah.
back?
Before we said Disco Benny, didn't we?
No,
No, he
Didn't
wasn't. No, it wasn't him.
Bale?
So it wasn't Bale.
No.
it was Gareth Bale.
Whoa.
Okay.
No wonder we won. No wonder we won so convincingly. Gareth Bale was playing.
At left
And
back.
he was fit. Was he?
Yeah.
Then you had Cranshaw.
No.
No Cranshaw.
Oh, Nico. That's my Harry read that.
Malbronk, was that a bit late for him?
No.
No. Lennon.
I'll give you
No,
a
Lennon?
clue. I don't think you've got this one yet. One of the players who the only decent, he did two decent things for Spurs. One was dump a bucket of ice on top of Harry Redknapp whilst in underpants.
Bentley.
Bentley played, correct. And the other, and any TV pundits that was
Genus.
in, yes, Genus. You got Palacios.
Yeah,
you got
Genus.
Crouch. You got
So you
Defoe. So you're after one player who played on the left wing.
It wasn't. It's not Stephen Pienaar. He wasn't there yet, was he?
No.
So you've got
Here's
Genus.
a clue.
He's not
Dos Santos.
bloody the Mexican. Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, Giovanni Dos Santos.
Yeah.
Wasn't he pissed? He must have been
Probably.
pissed.
Well,
Just-
That was also one of the reasons I became a Spurs fan. Giovanni
Because
Dos
of-
Santos.
Probably.
because of him.
I have a soft spot for Mexico. I love Mexico. They're my favorite country, I would say, just in general. So I loved that Spurs had a Mexican player at the time too. I do remember this.
And here's an easy question for you, Jack.
what
was
a
the name of his
failure he
brother?
was. That's glorious.
What was who? Sorry.
What was the name of Dos Santos' brother? Come on, that's easy.
Jonathan.
Dos Santos. Jonathan Dos
Jonathan.
Santos.
Well,
yeah.
well, Jonathan Dos Santos. They both played for Mexico.
Here's
Imagine
I'm not going to tease you with name the bench. I'll just go through it.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, go on. Give us some clues. Come on, we've got to stretch this out. We're struggling.
Well, Corluke you've already named. He was on it.
Yeah.
Stipe,
Stipe Potowski, or whatever his name was, the Croatian goalie. Him, Stipe.
No, the reserve keeper is an interesting one, actually. I don't think you're going to get it, but he was an Englishman.
Oh my gosh.
Carlo
And
Cudicini.
he's the namesake of a man with a truly dreadful curtained haircut that played in goal for us for years.
Oh, Jimmy
Walker.
Jimmy
Correct.
Walker.
Yeah.
There we go. Bloody hell. Jimmy Walker.
Wow.
Didn't even know he existed.
Charles Chelmsford, Corluka.
No, you've
we've
named most of them.
We've had
About
Kraus
who's good-
Defoe. Keane was on the bench. Who was the other striker? Roman Pavlyuchenko? Wasn't he knocking around?
Player who's just retired very fast.
Bent.
He's
Recently retired, I
No.
should say.
He's retired very fast.
No.
Oh, Lennon.
Yes, correct.
He's retired very quickly. That's it. I'm retiring. That was quick.
Another right
I've had
back. The shit Kyle.
Norton.
Correct.
Oh,
Oh,
No,
yeah.
And
I remember him.
a Frenchman.
He's French. He's French.
And he was
Not
truly terrible,
Oh,
Stambouli.
truly-
in my opinion.
Stambouli.
He was no. He was.
No, he was
Stambouli
used with the
time.
bail money. He was used with
Don't
the bail money.
no. Don't tell us that because Gallas wasn't French, but he wasn't terrible. I like Gallas. He was French.
He was a good player.
Truly, yeah, French and truly
Dorian
awful.
DeViet.
Correct.
Dorian DeViet.
Well done. Well
There you
done.
Wow.
Look
There
at
it is.
that. And we forgot Danny Rose.
No,
Oh, yeah.
I thought you said him, but yeah,
No.
the clue would be Google's everything. But yeah, there you
There's a
go.
lot of fullbacks on that bench.
I feel like that bench
Nothing
beats that
changed.
starting lineup.
It's it's certainly an interesting. And they say we haven't moved forward. You know,
Clearly not the best Jimmy to ever play for Tottenham. That goes to Jimmy Greaves, quite clearly. Not much of a
No.
debate there. So
No,
there we
that's
go.
it.
That's we've got right. That's 5 minutes sorted. What's next to talk about with this Preston
No
Cup
problem.
preview?
we've got our number one. Look at that. There you go. There's the,
Do you know
the
what?
ties.
But Caller, do you know why we are number one in the next draw? Because there is a reason.
Well, it's clearly not alphabetical. So
No.
no, don't know. Go on
Dave,
then.
Come on.
do you know the reason why we're
Let me
number
look.
one?
Is it because is it the oldest team left in the competition
No.
who's won the trophy? Oh.
the longest time since they won it. No.
No, I'm not talking about that, but the earliest winner of all that's
No.
left. That's what I mean.
Yeah, it's because we were the first tie drawn out in the last round. That's how they do it.
Okay.
So
Wow.
yeah, so that was the order of the draw, and for the next round, those numbers become that's why the way it is.
Do we know who's doing the draw? Is it the Jonas Brothers? Are they doing the draw for the next round?
It's on the
What
one
does
show
it matter?
Monday night, isn't it?
We won't be in it, so what does it matter?
Might be Jermaine Genius. I think he does the one show, doesn't he? So there you
Yeah.
go. We'll see.
So,
We'll see.
well, look,
So-
well, hang on. Bring that back up. So let's see who's left, right? So obviously we've got some Premier League clubs against each other. So let's have a look.
Hmm.
I'm trying to look. Hang on.
I think good-looking John, as we love to call him, he said during the week
as
that
your
the
wife
maximum
likes to
they
call
can
him.
have a Premier League. Yeah. She doesn't really talk about him much anymore. I think there are a maximum of 9 Premier League teams that will go through to the last 16.
Right.
So it'll be 8.
Oh dear. Look, obviously, why I did the Jonas Brothers reference, this is something for Jack to kind of, get any kind of relevance out of, because, frankly,
Yeah.
Jack's just I think Jack's got to a point in his life where he's going, it's kind of Friday. I'm sat around here with 3 middle-aged old men. What am I doing with my life?
It's only
But
4 p.m.
what I
this
wanna
time
know
for me,
is-
Dave,
is-
don't you worry.
is
But
Dave
I've actually,
O-
Mrs. has a picture with Kevin Jonas once when we were waiting in line at a bar. and he was getting some tacos nearby. So I took the picture, of course, which is, a certain place to be to take the picture of your girlfriend with a celebrity.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
City are winning 1-0, by the way, I think, still. So
Can I just say that, do you get on any other YouTube channels, other than Irish Hotspur, of course, such great anecdotes as tonight? We've had Preston, motorways, Telic machines.
I've learned
Jonas
more about
brothers.
Preston than one could. I've had a flash course on Preston, it feels like, today. I really have.
there you go.
I think
you know
you should
everything
do an
about
Irish.
Preston.
I think you should do an Irish Hotspur show live from Preston. Let's sort it out.
No.
It's up north. Gov's in the chat. Shout Gov, also channel member. We appreciate you, Gov. I like this from Lindy. Janice doesn't do anything well. I can't remember him doing anything well in a Spurs shirt, to be honest, either, but there you go. Right, here's the questions for you then. Name your team. Jack, let's start with you as our guest. Who would you play in this fixture?
Well, it turns out Harry Kane has picked up some sort of virus or has some sort of illness maybe for this one. So I think we'll go with Big Richie up top, which I'm excited to see.
He won't be playing, I don't think. He's not travelled with the team, I don't think.
Richarlison hasn't travelled?
He's been seen on social media tonight, hasn't he?
He went to the Spurs Arsenal reserves or
Under
23
21s
game.
Yeah.
So there's a good chance that if he went to watch Lucas play in that game, that he's not up in Preston sleeping
Unless
in a
he's
hotel.
chartered a private jet to Preston.
Jeez, that's confusing then. So that means Harry Kane is playing.
Maybe not.
Or okay. Wow. I'm left confused then. So maybe I might do, just to try to figure out the front three, I'll go with Sonny, Kulusevski, and Danjuma. Maybe Danjuma gets to play left wing. Maybe they play Sonny up top and Kulusevski on the right or something like that. That's a confusing one. I'm left very kind of stumped actually with that.
Phil's saying they're travelling tomorrow morning.
Kane and
I
Richarlison
heard
being
they
out.
were already there, but yeah. We'll
They're
see.
traveling tomorrow. Yeah, I kind of feel like Richie is going to be playing in that one tomorrow. I'd like to think that he is, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, they
If he isn't,
name-checked
take it
him,
away.
didn't they, and said he'll be fit for that match.
Yeah, I mean,
he'll be fit for Preston.
Let's just assume that everyone's fit. Isn't that what Conte came out and said? That like pretty much everyone was available?
Yeah, I think he said, and then I think the only thing that I've heard was Harry Kane has some type of like virus or some type of illness or something like that. So there's maybe a potential reason not to start him. And so to answer, I guess, to summarize, I would just put Richie in. I think I would put Kulusevski maybe on the right. And then I would actually give Danjuma the start if you can. Maybe put Danjuma on the left and see how it goes from there. But I don't know, would also maybe make more sense to bring him off the bench, maybe less pressure, that sort of way. And if you didn't want to play Danjuma, play Heung-Min on the left. I just think Sonny also needs to be kind of maybe given a break. So that's what I'd say for the front three. I'll leave maybe the rest of the team for you guys. I spent a lot of time figuring out the front three with all of that.
I'd give Kane a rest anyway, to be honest, but there you go. Okay, let's go to you next, HG. What would you do?
What would I do?
Some offers of some lineups. Maybe run your all over these.
Well, I'd keep Lloris in goal. I don't really see a reason to give Forster the chance, so I keep Lloris in goal. Left back, like I don't want to say Sessegnon. I really don't, so I won't.
We just did.
So I won't. I won't say his name ever again. Cesspit, as he's called in our little WhatsApp group. So Perisic at left back. I would like to see Spence, but I know it's not going to happen. So maybe Doherty. I mean, it's weird because Emerson played well. You almost want to see him go again. You know, like he was much more advanced in certain areas in the Fulham game. He was getting, kind of playing in midfield at sometimes. So stick with him. Like I don't really want to see too many changes, if I'm honest. Like I think Hojbjerg could do with.
They've
the rest.
had a big break too. Like they haven't played in a while. So
yeah, and we've got another week till the next one. So it feels like maybe Bissouma instead of Hojbjerg, and go Bissouma and Bentancur in midfield. Yeah. If Royal stays at right back, that's fine. And then the front three, I think Danjuma will probably start. I do think he'll start. And so Danjuma plus Kane if he's there, plus Kulusevski. Son's on the bench for me.
Well, the breaking news is we've had a super chat, so thank you very much for your support of the mod room. Davo, this one's for you. Would you rather, and it is a difficult one, I think this will really conflict you. Would you rather see Spurs lift the FA Cup or an Oasis reunion?
That's a great question from the Mod Drummer. And by the way, Mod Drummer's a great name, so nice one. Look, with the news of Noel Gallagher's divorce from Sarah, and, most reunions are brought about because one of the members of the band needs a divorce to pay for because they're quite expensive, I hear, that I would, the chance of Oasis getting back together is extremely high. But, I've seen Oasis live a few times, a fantastic experience. I recommend it to anyone. But for me, to see Hugo
He didn't ask
Lloris,
you any of that. He asked you if you'd rather see Spurs lift the FA Cup or Oasis reunion. Answer the question.
I am, because I'm trying to drag out our content here by any means necessary. Thank you. We haven't resorted to the 2023 calendar yet. We're not that desperate. So I'd rather see Tottenham win the FA Cup for a couple of reasons. One, I'd like for my two boys to see in their lifetime, for the first time, Tottenham lift a trophy. That for me would be emotionally important to me. Blue and white in the blood. For me, at my era, my age, sorry, Jack, to see us lift the FA Cup is a wonderful thing. I've seen us do it twice in the flesh. So I want us to lift the FA Cup. And for me, if we lift the FA Cup, for me, that's the final validation of the great ownership that we have for the last 20 years.
Brilliant. And thank you very much for your super chat, Super chat, Mod Drummer. And if you want to put a super chat in, we will absolutely read out whatever you put on it within reason. Davo, you're 11. Would you do anything different?
Yeah, I would. I'd start off with Jimmy Walker in goal. I think he knows the ground, so I think we'd get him in for a start. I think Emerson Royale, because he's played well in the last two games and he's trying very hard. Clement Longley for me, this is about his level to play in this game, so I'll stick him in. And then we'll have old Franz Beckenbauer at the back with his distribution skills. Davison Sanchez is in. And then I think we will go with Japhet Tanganga. And then on the left-hand side, Stephen Sessegnon's twin brother, Ryan. Maybe we got the wrong one. We'll get him in. And then in midfield, are you eating an after eight there, HD? And then in midfield, Danish flappy hands. Let them rest out. Let them do a shift at Copenhagen Airport. So Bissouma, Ollie Skipp, who Cooler knows intimately, but not like that, to be clear. Who else? Who else in midfield? I'd have Kulusevski. Bissouma, Arnott from Different Strokes, get him in. Messi for his last appearance for the club. Who else we got? Have I missed out anyone in the midfield? Yeah, Skipp, Bissouma. That's it, isn't it? Jimmy Walker, though. Get him in goal.
Jimmy Walker. I don't even remember him, to be honest.
Old not to go for Gomez.
That's probably a reason why I'm going to have to crack into this Budweiser now, and I'm going to put it in a glass. So I feel slightly.
Jimmy Walker was the third choice homegrown keeper. He was like 38, 39 when he signed for us.
Right. Okay.
Did we sign him from Burnley, or is it my imagination?
I want to say West Ham, but I don't know.
Listen, obviously big up to the Patreon members and things like that. We give them some exclusive content. I'm thinking of putting together a tribute to the Jimmy Walker podcast coming your way soon.
121 people watching. Hit the like button, please.
This is
Walsall.
true. Jimmy Walker played for Walsall for years.
Okay.
When Walsall were in the Championship, I mean, they done quite well.
Let me ask you all a question. 4th place or higher, but not the Championship winners, or the FA Cup. What would you rather? Dave, let's start with you.
Why can't we have both? Why can't we have a big club?
Well, no,
why can't we have both?
That's not the question. There you go again, changing the question.
That's my job. It's called deflection.
Well, we don't know what your job is.
And I rescue orphan puppies. That's my job, and birds. I want us 4th place in the FA Cup. I want fourth place from a selfish point of view. That the Europa games on the Thursday. That means all the games are on a Sunday. And that means Monday morning games, which is a nightmare. No, actually, I want the FA Cup. Let's do FA Cup. FA Cup.
FA Cup. Okay, HG.
The only reason I would ever pick the FA Cup in this choice is to shut everyone up about the whole no trophy nonsense. That's it. Any other time, fourth place to me. Like, it's just like, considering that Spurs need all these extra players, right? And the money that from the Champions League is going to help pay for those things. And we all know the owners aren't going to pay it in their own pocket. Like, what do you want? Do you want, short-term glory just to get rid of all those people who are like, oh, you never win a trophy? Which, yeah, we're well aware of. So, like, do you know what I mean? Like, oh, real big news, that one. No, I mean, it's like, I don't, fourth? I mean, third? Like, honestly, I care more about Arsenal not winning the league. Is that awful? Can I say that? I'd take ninth if it meant that Arsenal didn't win the league.
Can you do that voice again?
No. I've still got chocolate in my mouth.
He sounded like Alan Jones in The Snowman there. Sorry, Jack.
Wow, thank you.
So many references this evening. I would take the FA Cup. I think it's a no-brainer for me. I also feel like we've seen clubs like even Arsenal, right, benefit from maybe being in a lesser competition like the Europa League, and it's allowed them to focus more on the Premier League campaign the following season. So maybe sacrifice one season without being in the Champions League. We get kind of that sort of whatever it is, you get the monkey off our back of the trophy and everything. And it seems like that's we can sacrifice 1 year without maybe being in the top four. We've actually been in top four, at least in Champions League, more often under Pochettino. And I don't know, I just feel like it's not as much of a novelty maybe anymore, but call me a young Spurs fan for saying that. The Champions League.
It's weird. Can I just?
I've grown tired of it, Collar. I want the FA Cup.
Well, this is next year, right?
Well, this thing that Brendan's talking about, I have a feeling it's from 24-25. So you'd have to finish fifth next year for it to matter. But Spurs' coefficient is pretty good. So weirdly enough, I think that if we did finish outside the top four, we wouldn't have to finish fifth. We could finish 10th, and our coefficient would get us into the Champions League. But like I see it. I mean, FA Cup trophy. I mean, like, I remember us doing it. I don't remember it as often as Davo, but I do remember us doing it. I just, honestly, it's just the noise from other people that's enough to make me want it, just to shut them up. I don't want to play Thursday Sundays. I don't care about going down a division to somehow get going again. I like the Champions League much more than Europa League, even though Europa League brings Tottenham to Austria, which is good for me at least. But it's the idea of any kind of trophy just to shut people up. But it's weird. Everyone says, well, once Harry Kane's got the trophy, he won't need to leave. Well, no, he'll still want to leave. He's won something with Spurs. Achievement unlocked. See ya. That the situation is like, the players winning stuff at Leicester. They didn't stick around. They went because they could. No. And so but yeah, like, to me, like, I want us to be a team that competes at the very top all the time. And that means the Champions League. Cup competitions. Like, for years, Spurs were cup competitions only. Right, that's what we were known as. I don't want to be just that. I want to be the league first, and then because we're really good, we have a better chance of winning cups.
Yeah, precisely. For me, I would. Oh, it's a difficult one, isn't it? If I say not the FA Cup, then I'll get accused of just being a Levy lover who only cares about top four. So, FA Cup for me all the way. Levy out, Enic out. All of that stuff. Let's talk transfers. Oh, no, actually, let's not. Let's take your predictions. Sorry. Jack, prediction.
I'm going to say, with it being potentially a team without Harry Kane, who's been sort of carrying us very much recently, I'm going to say it's going to be an ugly 2-0 or maybe a 2-1.
2-0 or 2-1.
We've been here before. It's never been a 4-0, at least in my experience.
Well, no, we only scraped through last round, didn't we? But there you go. I'll take that. HG?
I agree with Keith Browning. Maybe not about the 1-1, but Dier replay happening, absolutely. It's Spurs away in the FA Cup. It's just the part of me, it's Middlesbrough, just on the other side of the country. No, I'm not. I don't any confidence really. So I'll take the replay if I'm honest. I'd be happy with it.
Davo.
We're going to win 6-1. We're going to let in a goal first. Just Jimmy Walker will fumble one in, and then kill Messi will score a hat trick, and he's substituted on the 85th minute as he tearfully waves goodbye to the Tottenham away end. And then we get a penalty in the last minute, and Jimmy Walker scores from the spot to redeem from his error. 6-1.
He can do it on a cold night in Preston, cold wet night in Preston.
Correct.
I think we're gonna.
That's something Messi couldn't do, but he'll Messi.
I think a draw is a very good shout. To be honest, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see a draw. But that's boring, so I'm going to go and say we're going to have a 2-1 win. I'm with you, Jack. I think we'll scrape through, and that's all we need to do, quite frankly. Especially if Kane is fit and has travelled and all the rest of it.
Do we score the first goal caller, or do they score?
Nah, it's not the Tottenham way, is it? It's not the Tottenham way. The Tottenham way is to fumble around a little bit.
Second half, FC
one down in
turns
the
up
first
in
half, and second half, he turns up and can do it on a cold northern afternoon.
Really, our first one of the night. Congratulations. You win the prize. I'll be sending you a picnic hamper.
Yeah. A picnic hamper? What's in this picnic hamper?
Some of those birds.
Brilliant. Right, let's talk transfers. Danjuma in. The first one is in. Davo, if I said to you at the start of the window, we really need to sign on the 25th a loan signing of an ex-Bournemouth player who did nothing in the Premier League and has been exiled at Villarreal, what would you say?
So that's just the thing we need. We've already talked about Danjuma, but I think it's a great ambitious move that we've done here. It's a good way to strengthen the squad. As I said just before, 5th and 6th up top not good enough, so at least we're doing that in. The Porro thing, we'll talk about that in a minute, won't we? But we need a centre back, and that's about it really. But it's a loan signing, which might be permanent if he does all right. But we might have a new owner and a new manager next year, so things can be different.
You never know. Gov has smashed the super chat in. Thank you so much, Gov. We appreciate it. Winning the FA Cup and getting Champions League is a realistic expectation, sign of progression, unless UCL is UEFA Conference League, which I don't think it is in this context. I agree. I think if we got Champions League and won the FA Cup, that's our best season in forever, isn't it, Dave?
Oh yeah, God! If we did that, I'd be. I'd be very happy indeed. Really happy. That's what
you'd be Enic in, right?
Not that happy. Not delirious. Listen, if we do that, it'll be me, Danny, Snoop Dogg, Jimmy Walker, the Avery. We'd all be down the local boozer having a big old party. That's the sign of a proper club making progression, lift a trophy, get Champions League. So I'm all up for that.
What if it was the League Cup and Champions League?
Yeah, you're very snooty.
Yeah, rank.
Are you doing the robot there? The League Cup is Okay, stop doing that, please. We've worked you've and HG worked very hard to get the subscribers that we've got to. Don't just blow it up with that, for God's sake. League Cup and Champions League, happy days again. Day out at Wembley. Let me tell you something. You win a trophy, the bond between the players and the supporters goes even more. Dancing around the pitch, someone puts the cup on the cup hat on it. I'm telling you, it's a great day out. It bonds together everyone. It's really important.
The bonds that Berbatov and Keane had after we won it didn't last very long, did they? Because they went within about 2 months.
Do you know something, HG? I like you. I love working with you on this, but it's when you bring that kind of torpedo comments to my argument, of which I have no response to. Are you talking about the fact that 80 goals over 2 seasons went walking out the door, and surprisingly, having Levy negotiated Fraser Campbell in return, we had 2 points from 8 games. Nice work, HG. You got me.
Yeah.
I think when people had very high expectations, if they did have high expectations at the beginning of this season, this is probably what they hoped for, was Champions League qualification and some sort of domestic trophy of some kind. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and that absolutely shows progression, very much so.
I mean, I've done it on Football Manager. My first season, I won the FA Cup, finished second in the league.
You just can't argue with that.
What do you think is more likely? Finishing top 4 or winning the FA Cup?
I think we can do both. I genuinely think we can do
that's
both.
not the question I asked, caller. That is not the question I asked.
Which is more likely?
Yeah, which is more likely?
You'd have to say right now. I don't know. We need to see where we're at after the January window. But if you ask me right now,
now,
I would say FA Cup's probably more realistic.
Okay.
But I'd say both. But I think both could be on the cards because I think that 4th spot is there for the taking. I think Man United will get it. I think obviously City
Newcastle.
and not Newcastle, City and the Goons unfortunately will get it. The Newcastle spot is there for the taking. I think Newcastle will flag out a little bit. I do, and I think it is absolutely there for the taking, 100%.
Newcastle have got no Europe. They're at the FA Cup, so I think Newcastle's going to be very tough. So if we get to, how many FA Cup semi-finals have we lost in a row?
FA Cup semi-finals? Oh, a lot. A lot in it. Don't know.
I reckon.
Do you know?
I reckon,
8 or 9? 8 or 9, is it?
I think it's 7.
Oh, that's a scandal. 134 watching and 53 likes. Smash the like button if you want to hear some Davo anecdotes of the good old days. It's got like
hit the like button as we've hit 1 hour and 6 minutes on Preston in the FA Cup. Now, come on.
Yeah, that is graft, absolute graft. I think we can do both, but I think it depends on who we sign. You've got to get Porro in, I think, because our right side, the flank's been an issue all year. Forward, we've given ourselves an option. I mean, realistically, what's more important right now, do you think? A creative midfielder or a centre-back, HG?
Out of those two right now, I'd say
Imagine Porro signed anyway, yeah?
Yeah, no, I'd say centre-back.
Would you?
I really would. Because the thing is, like, scoring goals this year, even if it's mostly been Kane, we've been able to do it. And it's not as if we've had much creativity in the side, yet we've still managed to score goals. So if we can stop conceding 2 every game, that might be where I go. I mean, there are other ways to do it, but I think that of those 2 options, I would pick a centre-back.
Jack?
Well, I would take 2 centre-backs. I think before I would take another midfielder. I think, of course, we do probably lack that sort of tempo setter, as maybe the term is, for maybe some type of creative midfielder, but I think we can get away with what we have for the time being. We just need as many center backs in here as possible. That's how I see it.
If Preston do knock us out, the pressure to go and spend money over the next, what would be like the next 2 or 3 days, will be massive, absolutely massive. Because signing Porro wouldn't be enough, because most Spurs fans think that he's going to happen anyway. But imagine the double whammy, right? Like, you watch Spurs, we lose to Preston, and then you switch over to your illegal stream and you watch the Portuguese League Cup final, and within 2 minutes, Porro does his leg. Like, is there anything more Spursy than that?
No. What will happen is that we go out to Preston, right? And then,
oh, bless him. There's John with your FA Cup semi-finals.
Yeah, that's right. We go out to Preston, and then Porro lifts the League Cup. And as he goes off the pitch, his agent comes up to him with a mobile phone. It's Chelsea on the phone, and he goes to sign for Chelsea. Now that would be more like it. Can you imagine we'd all be
Todd
getting
Bowley
our
is at
placards.
the game. They panned a Todd Bowley at the Premier League final. He's at the Cup final. There he is.
No, he's better. Go on.
As Porro goes up to get his last ever medal, what he thinks is going to be his last ever medal before he signs to Spurs, it's actually Burley that gives him the medal and a pen and a contract.
Infantino style. Gianni Infantino style.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Beautiful. Imagine we'd all be getting our placards out and heading down to Enfield for a bit of a demonstration.
This is kind of fun, like to kind of predict the worst thing that could happen. It's very Spursy, but I quite enjoy this. The idea of thinking that all good things can happen, well, that is unrealistic. Think of
It's
something
easier
that
to
could be
predict
really...
how it can all go wrong.
It's easier, exactly.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, probably Chelsea and Arsenal, since they've won it a load since then. To answer Gov's question.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay. So, let me ask a question. Do y'all think we're going to do it this year? Are we going to win the FA Cup? Dave?
Are we going to figure out? Yeah, why not? We're going to do it.
Right, do you really think so?
Yeah, we're going to get
But the
AJ
year ends in
Tracy.
3. We've got a problem.
Hang on, have we ever won anything in the year ending 3? Cup Winners' Cup in 63. Did we win a League Cup in 73? I think we did. 83, nope. 93, nope. Yeah. So we won something in 83. No, 63. So AJ Tracy is going to record the cup final record with the whole squad gathered around the mics and the big headphones on. It's on. It's happening.
HG, we're going to win the cup.
The best thing in our favour is that the teams that have beaten us season are getting knocked out. Otherwise, I'd say no. Of course not. But when City are left in, obviously the Goons are out, Newcastle are out, United are still in, right? And then Liverpool could go out to Brighton, one of those two. I just think, the odds are right now, no, because we could draw Man City away in the next round, just like Arsenal did, and then we'd all be saying, oh, well. So no is the simple answer. I don't think we're good enough to beat any team on our day right now. Sadly, I might have said that at the end of last season that we were, but right now I don't think we are. So the answer to that is no.
Jack, it's just brought me back down to earth there. I was flying high on Dave's prediction, but then HG ruined it.
This is a better opportunity than it normally is. I believe even in the last round there were more Premier League teams that were knocked out than there usually were. I think it was something like 5 or 6 were knocked out in the last one. So the pathway is probably a lot easier than it normally would be, which would then mean that Spurs will find some royal way to mess it up in some spectacular fashion. But I don't know. I'm gonna say we have a very good chance, and I kind of am expecting us to make it to the semifinal or make it to the final. I really am. I feel like that should be kind of it should be expected because the pathway has been made so much easier. Like if we could even have a chance of still not coming up against a Premier League team in the next round, we have a very high chance of not coming up against another Premier League team in the next round. So it really should be, I don't know, it's not an easy competition, but it's the cliche would be is that it's been actually made easier for us.
Yeah, I mean, and let's face it, last year we got a pretty good draw in the 5th round of the FA Cup. The fact we lost the game is irrelevant. We got a pretty good draw.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just it is weird because it is kind of luck of the draw. Like the year we got to the Champions League final, when we drew Man City in the quarters, I was like, that was the one team I did not want Spurs to face because I thought over 2 legs we'd have no chance. And we ended up going through. So it's kind of weird. But given Spurs' history, which is more likely to go wrong against a team that we should be beating or against a team that we always lose to? But Dave gets it. Spurs can play a good team and lose, and we can play a bad team and lose. And right now, I don't trust us to win. We went to Fulham and we beat them. We went to Palace and we won 4-0. No one knows what Spurs are going to do right now. But there is hope that there's very, very few injuries, if basically none, that now is the chance to see us do stuff. But yeah, the confidence. No, I'm not going to sit here and say yes, we will, because this is Spurs. No.
1981, we had pretty favourable draw. I mean, we had Exeter at home in the quarterfinals, right? And we played. There's Coventry at home, Wolves in the semis, and City in the finals. Pretty straightforward. And then in 91, I mean, we had the Goons in the semi-final, and before that, we had your likes of your Portsmouth, Oxfords, Notts Counties, Blackpool away, right? So we had some pretty good draws to get us there. So there's a chance, but I mean, I went to this semi-final. I mean, we went out to Ellen Road, and I'm not joking. Ellen Road stank of horse shit that day, and the FA gave 3 stands out of 4 to Everton because we appealed being banned by the FA that year. And the only decent thing Alan Sugar did was to get us back in it. And Stuart Nethercott played left back against Anders Limpar. Yeah, I haven't got over that either, Daniel, either.
Yeah. Well, I've got a Pedro Porro update. He has signed.
Has he?
Absolutely nothing so far.
You got me there.
So what I would say is,
I do actually have a very disappointing thing, maybe to ruin your mood even further. It does look like maybe Moises Caicedo is headed to Arsenal.
Oh, really?
For £60 million.
Oh,
that won't hurt.
yeah.
As long as we get Porro
Let's
in,
hope
I'm
it's a
happy.
Bissouma. Let's hope it turns out to be a Bissouma, like it was for us.
And considering that the Goons are now out the FA Cup, what have they got left? You know, I don't know. Like, it's one of those things.
Europa League.
Yeah, but again, the Europa League, they played the reserves to get to, and they finished top of the group. So they're in the last 16 of that. It feels as if, you know, they've got no excuse now. Frankly, there won't be any fixture pile up. It will be up to them to go and do what they can do. And because we don't have to play them anymore, we can't do anything. You know, we just have to sit there and watch and pray and hope. But losing tonight for Arsenal is not that bad a result, really. They won't care. They won't care about losing the FA Cup if it means they get the title, and that every fan would feel that way. So yeah.
But the good news is we win that. Yeah, I like Bissouma.
I don't think anyone can write him off.
I'm not writing him off yet, but
he should be
just
playing in a 3, not a 2. He's a quality player. I think he'd be absolutely fine. I just think
I'm not.
It's a little bit down to the manager.
I agree. I think you've got to give these new players some time and patience, like Bissouma. We've got to be patient with him. But Longley's shit.
Yeah, I can't argue with
Actually,
it right
just
now.
quickly,
can't
Davo,
argue
I
with
saw
it based on his last appearance.
a bit of extra news is that apparently Barcelona have to get rid of around 150 million to 200 million euros of wages off their wage bill. Would you take a Longley in that scenario?
Well, I thought that
I'm going to take a strategic break to refill.
Okay, well, I thought our honest as a days long Paratici giving them 25 million smackers for Emerson Royale last season would have helped alleviate the situation. But
why not help them again?
Why not help them again?
They're a bit of a charity case anyway, I would say Barcelona, you know, just for the greater football world, you know, help them out a little bit.
The only thing about Longley that I think has been his biggest contribution to you, but I don't know about you, I find that Perisic and Longley look quite similar when I watch them play, like facially, and I sometimes get a bit confused. So maybe
both left-footed. Yeah.
Well, there we go. And Longley, I'll give Longley his due. He has done a couple of decent crosses this season, but you know.
And they're both not good at one-on-one defending either, so there's that as well. Yeah, so they look the same in every way.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. So, do I want Longley off Barcelona? No, I don't. Who else in Barcelona got that we could get? What's his face? Rafinha. He's pretty good. Love him.
Yeah, not a bad Kulusevski alternative. I would take maybe Kessié if people still would, you know, maybe give Kessié a chance. I would take him. I wonder if Frankie de Jong has settled his court case yet, and if he's willing to go to a Premier League club after that. I would take a look at Frankie de Jong.
What was the court case about?
Basically about them they wanted to, delay his payments like they have with everybody else. Because they're not paying their players, in a lot of cases, Barcelona, they delay the payments or however they're structuring it, strangely. And I don't think Frankie de Jong wanted that to happen because he's also on big wages. And so he didn't want that to happen.
So, George, we're talking about Barcelona now, not Real. I don't know what you're talking about here. They're not they're Real fans. Why are you telling us that? Okay, thanks, George.
Do you know what, actually, that was a gag that I was going to do. You got to be worried when you're thinking like me. Seriously, mate. We all you and I need to go away and have a period of reflection again. So there we go. So, yeah, let's get Kessié. I'd like Rafinha. Anyone else knocking around in Barcelona we can get?
No, because Barcelona's team isn't that... I mean, they're okay, but I don't think they're loaded with superstars.
Well, the players that you would take from them, they also have billion-pound release clauses on as well, like Pedri and Ansu Fati and Gavi and those sort of kids all have billion-pound release clauses on them. So that also So I think anybody that you would take, maybe Araujo. I do like Araujo.
It's interesting that
that's a Uruguayan, I think, too. So maybe that
Yeah.
would even, there's a chance we could actually maybe get someone like him. They paid also plenty of money for him. So maybe someone like Araujo. I'm trying to think, though. I mean, I really do like Jules Koundé. I do really like Jules Koundé. We could have gotten him, especially he would be good for a back three, but we do need taller players. So I would actually say Araujo. I really would actually go after Araujo. He's very tall, very strong, very fast. Kind of would be an amazing Sanchez replacement without the ice skates.
Often injured, could one say?
Yeah, that's fair, actually. I mean, would you rather have him slipping around or just be injured? It's a toss-up.
Cheers, George. Yeah. Cheers, George. That was a good response. Yeah, I just...
But can I just go back to... Sorry, go on.
Go on. No, go.
You just made a point, HG, when I said, well, what other players could we get from this Barca team? And you actually said, why would we want to get players from that team? They're not very good. But we got one who couldn't get in that team last season. Just saying.
Yeah, but I mean, he'd been on loan, hadn't he? He'd been on loan at Betis. It's like he'd
No,
actually
no,
played
no,
a couple
no,
of
no.
games. No, but he played a couple
No,
of games for
Longley, I'm
Barcelona. Oh, Longley, okay.
Longley. I'm talking Longley.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind the Longley signing. To me, the Longley signing is the same as the Danjuma signing. Like, it's a sticking plaster that you hope will turn out to be good long term, but you don't expect it to. If you thought it was going to, you'd sign him on a long term deal. Barcelona would have been happy for us to take him longer term. It just the last time Paratici got involved helping Barcelona out with transfers, I'm not sure we really want to be doing that, do we? It's. No, like I don't look at the Barcelona squad and think, yeah, there's maybe one or two that would make us better. We've got 34 senior players. 6 are out on loan, but we've got a whole bunch of players. You bring more people in, even like Kessié, someone's got to go. And like, which of our midfielders do you want to see go? Like, do you want Bentancur to go? Bissouma, Hojbjerg? Would you give up Sarr? I don't know. So I just feel like I don't look at that Barcelona setup and think there's someone there that will hugely improve us apart from De Jong. And I think if De Jong goes, he'll go to Man United.
Dave, do you want
George
to take that one?
Again. Do I want to take this one? Yeah, I'll take this one. George, I send you my love to you as I send love to everybody in this world, which includes people who are Enic in and people who are Enic out. And so the content of the channel is people coming in with lots of different views and what they want to say. What I've been a bit disappointed about with this invasion of the Levy out, Enic out messages we've been getting on there in the last 3 or 4 weeks, our normal sponsor, that sex channel, hasn't been on here a lot in the comments. So that's I'm a bit disappointed. You've driven them away, so I'm a bit upset about that. We got a sponsorship deal with them. So George,
It's better the ball shavers, though, isn't it? It's better than man.
Yeah, so George, George, I appreciate that because there is no beef, and I agree with you. It's just that this show has got lots of different views, lots of different people. Me, myself, and Leon, a wonderful person that he is. We're very Enic out, and I've been Enic out since the final
20 years.
Yeah, the final straw for me was when we appointed AVB. That was it for me.
That's over a decade ago, right? When AVB was appointed. So it's been a long time for Davo. Like, what?
You sound like my doctor or something. It's been a long time for him.
No, but the thing is, like,
that's your
people
therapist.
assume like it feels as if there's been a few more Enic outers over the last 2 or 3 years because we haven't spent money when we have. Like, I'm not Enic in or out. I'm Spurs. I want Spurs to do well. I don't care who the owners are. If they make bad decisions, I'm upset. And if they make good decisions, I'm happy. But I have no control really over who the owners are going to be. So I don't think I'm in or out. Like when Spurs were flying, yeah, I was Enic in, I was Poch in. And when Poch was bad, I was Poch out. Like that's kind of how things go with me. So if people are doing well, then I'm fully behind it. You look at the last couple of years, things have struggled because we've bought badly. But I don't get involved in the whole Enic in or Enic out. I just want Spurs to do well. And if we sign good players, then I'm happy. And if we sign bad players, then I'm not. We sold Lamela, I was ecstatic. But it doesn't mean I want Enic in. I was just happy that Lamela went. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. It's, as you say here, we all want what's best for Spurs, and we do. And we go about different ways about it, but to me, I love watching the team and I want them to win as much as possible. And the money that we have spent, I wish we'd spent it better. I'm not anti Enic for the amount of money they've spent, because I think they have spent. I just think they've spent it badly, and that is what I want to change.
I'm at the end of my tether with Enic. I would happily see the club sold tomorrow, but that's just because I just think they've taken us as far as they can, quite frankly. And I think they've done some stuff good, some stuff bad, like most owners. But at the end of the day, I think it is time for change. But I think that change is coming, regardless of any movement, to be honest. But I want what's best for Spurs at the end of the day. And Jack, I don't know your position, Jack, actually.
I kind of have lived a pretty privileged sort of Spurs life to a degree. I entered, like we said, and just, realized earlier, entered in the 2010, 2011 sort of era. Kind of, I guess, post winning us, a trophy only a few years ago. And then I kind of went through the dark days of AVB where that was kind of hard to get behind. And sort of like then recovering from AVB to Pochettino, I never really had thought much about the ownership really ever, because I think during the days of Pochettino, it sort of felt like we were all kind of on the same page. I know I was obviously a whole pond and, stones throw away, but it did kind of feel like, why would anybody complain about being a Spurs fan right now under Pochettino? Like we're flying high, as kind of the term is to. And I think after the Champions League final and the building of the stadium and the way COVID hit, it sort of did kind of, I think, understandably make myself question, as well a lot of people question, like, are they really totally invested in the football side of things? And do they really want to actually maybe change their act and their bad habits of before? And it kind of looked like they didn't. But I sort of feel like I'm with you, caller, where I feel like they've taken it as far as they can. But to say that, I just don't really personally believe that they're parasites or that they're cancerous or that they're the worst things on, the planet Earth. That's how I sort of see it. I think they definitely have taken it as far as they can. Have they made plenty of mistakes on the road? Absolutely. Have they made mistakes in my lifetime? Absolutely. But have they made mistakes that would maybe force me to, wish death upon them or call them cancerous or call them parasites? I don't think so. So that's how I kind of sort of look at it. If someone else were to come in and run the club more competently, I think for me, it's not as much the money, because I'd actually rather the Premier League have a lot less money, and I'd rather actually there be more checks and balances on clubs. I'd actually, even if this sounds crazy and a bit maybe of a Yankee sort of kind of suggestion, but I actually think there should be a wage sort of like cap and a wage bill cap on clubs where they can only afford, to pay certain players, above 200K or, 250K. They have to balance out, how many players they can bring in that are of, superstar quality and superstar wages. But I don't think it's ever headed down that sort of path. It's headed down a path of, utmost capitalism and utmost like greed and wealth. And you have Man City's backline, which basically could solve world hunger if it was actually, sold, back. And I think if we're headed down that sort of route, where basically we're talking about teams that need like countries' GDPs in order to stay, kind of competitive in the Premier League, then probably Enic and Levy have reached their sell-by date, or they've reached their expiration. But I don't really personally, for me, caller, find that to be a real criticism of them. I don't think it's ridiculous to criticize somebody for investing stupid, money in the way that Newcastle, Chelsea, and the rest of the teams are. Have they invested money stupidly and poorly in the past? Absolutely. So that's why also sort of anger has been more towards people like also Steve Hitchen and things like that, because I think there have been people in the past employed by Daniel Levy, maybe stupidly, where they've wasted a lot of the money that we've invested as well. So I don't know. I think I'd be happy to see someone else come in that's more competent as well as has more money, but I also don't find them to be parasites. So that's how I sort of see it.
I think the thing is, it's the phraseology of it all: parasites, cancerous, scum, all of that shit. Like, I don't want to be involved in any of that. I like intellectual, rational debate. And if I'm being really honest, what the cheese room stands for is letting all views be heard. That is fundamentally it.
Can I, like, the thing is, what gets me is that I hate the fact that the ticket prices are so high, because it's unnecessarily high, and it has been for a long time. And I understand you want to maximise your revenue. Yeah, maybe, but go and get sponsors. Right, like we've seen this week, it's come out that Spurs' matchday revenue is like 106 million, right? It's like 25% of our overall revenue. Like, if the revenue goes down 10, 15 million, I don't think it hurts the club that much, but it makes the fans' life a lot easier. Right now, you've got fans paying a fortune to go to games, and they're watching dismal football. So, like, all of those things build up to help the Enic out crowd because they're negatives. If the ticket prices were lower, we'd get full houses. You'd get a different kind. I'm sure you would get a different kind of fan. You'd more likely to. It's not that rich people don't sing, but you look at various games with Spurs. If it's a London derby, if it's a London derby, you're going to get noise before the game's even started. But for most other games, people are there, they're drinking their drink and they're eating their pie and all the rest of it, and maybe at like 1 minute before the game starts, people go to their seats. Whereas with the London games, people are in their seats 10, 15 minutes before the game starts, creating that atmosphere. There are so many things that fans can do regardless of getting the owners out that would help the team. But like with Enic, the way things have gone, their first 4 odd years, we spent a lot of money buying players and we were going nowhere. And so Levy said, you know what, screw that. We're going to have the whole sporting director thing, right? Where we bought a load of English players and within 2 or 3 seasons, the team was in Europe, which for a long time I never thought was possible. Like Spurs in Europe was a pipe dream, and suddenly we were getting there and doing it regularly. And then we had that moment where, okay, Yol got sacked and we were all sad, but within, a year, we'd won a trophy. So you could sit there and say there was some progression. And then a couple of years later, we got to the Champions League. And then a few years later, Poch came along and we ended up having like league titles that were possibly coming to Spurs, which again, I never dreamed at any point in my life that Spurs would be involved in a title race. I just didn't ever expect it. And then we got to the point where maybe 2017, 2018, that was the moment where what's the next step? And it was also the exact time moment that we switched grounds and all those things that came into it. But that was it. And so because we haven't made that next step to another trophy or to regular whatever it is that people want, people are thinking, well, if I'm not going to go anywhere, in fact, we're going backwards, suddenly everything else becomes very important. It's like with the expenses scandal in the UK 10 years ago. We cared when times were good, but when times were bad, how dare they do this, these politicians? It's the same idea right now. And so for Spurs to get away, they either have to maybe reduce prices a little bit, or they can say, we don't need to do the things that we're doing, and we'll buy better, and we'll get better, and the team will improve. But right now, we're at this kind of no one knows where we're going to go, because we all know if Conte leaves and Kane leaves, we could get much worse very quickly. But if they stay, we have a basis to hopefully get better very quickly. And we're nothing right now. And that is a problem for many people. Because when you're not doing anything good, then you start looking around to, why am I investing my time and my money in this?
I also just one little thing that I would add is I think Spurs, at least the Levy and Enic franchise, funny enough, Levy and Enic ownership, they seem to want to operate like a Brentford and like a Brighton. I think there's no shame in that, and there really is nothing wrong with trying to operate in that sort of manner where you are trying to stay within your means and try to make maximum, profit when you can, when it comes to players and recruitment, and not spend ridiculous sums, like I said, that other teams have spent that are like near the sums of countries' GDPs. But at the same time, it's annoying that we have more means and more money than Brentford and Brighton, and they somehow run it better than we do. Like they do that type of style and that type of method better than us. But we seem to be trying to do the same thing, which is slightly frustrating, I think.
You're right, Jack, because I think what infuriates people is seeing, the rich list published by Deloitte last week, and Arsenal are below us. Chelsea are marginally ahead of us. And then we're operating like we won't pay a release fee for Pedro Porro, which, by the way, might be a complete red herring because apparently the release fee might not even apply in January. But it's what people see and it's their perception that is sometimes the problem, isn't it? And I think, Phil's on the money. You can't operate like Brentford when you charge the highest ticket price in the whole world of football. It's
that's a fair point as well.
But we do, and I think I'm not going to slag off other channels like they slag off us. At the end of the day, I think we all want the same thing for Tottenham, right? We just have slightly different visions of how we do it and slightly different visions of how we run our channels. And what I wouldn't want to do, and I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of the podcast guys, which, by the way, is just as big, if not bigger than the YouTube channel. So the podcast is huge as well. So the Cheese Room is multifaceted. It is not just a YouTube channel. It is a podcast. It is a Facebook place. It is a Twitter space. And you will get lots of different views, and they will conflict with each other, but we'll have reasonable debate. And I think the problem is with some of the channels out there, they're like echo chambers for people who all think the same thing and want to rant and rave. And that's, I don't think anyone wants that in the Cheese Room. That's not us.
So one of my favourite things I heard this week was what the Athletics Tottenham podcaster Danny Kelly does. So Danny Kelly is a respected broadcaster, editor of Q Magazine and NME Music magazines. And they were talking about the fact that it's going around saying that all the podcasts and YouTube channels and journalists are in Enic's pay. And they were actually having a discussion about it, which I thought was absolutely hilarious.
And we had a discussion about it on the last episode, actually, Dave. But there you go.
I know, that's right. And look at me here in Joe Lewis's cabin on his frigate, the Aviva.
Yeah, that's like Joe Lewis's birds.
Yeah, that's Joe Lewis's birds. That's right. Yeah. Look, just in terms of taking some of the questions or the comments in the thing, Gov has made some really good comments on there. I think the question about Enic not taking any money out, my counter to that is that Levy is one of the highest, if not the highest paid chairman in the Premier League. And he did award himself, or he was awarded a bonus for the delivery of the stadium that was over budget and late. So you can't get away from that. I think the second thing is, obviously, we've all discussed this to death, but the track record of Levy making good footballing decisions, we know he's not very good at it. But what he's really good at is kind of having a fall guy for him. Your Kamolis, your Hitchens. So who came out of that documentary not looking good on purpose was Danny Rose and Hitchin, right? They didn't edit anything out to make them look not bad. And I think he's very good at that. And I think the other thing so the trouble that I have around Enic, and I don't know this for sure or anything like that, to be very clear, I'm just very interested to know how these property deals are being done around the ground and who is paying for them, where does it get transferred to, and this, that, and the other. Because
I've got a great idea for a show, Dave. You and the accountant, Steve, break down all these property deals with all the evidence that's available and the finances. I think it's going to be good. Yeah,
I think, look, if I had the time, and it just sounds very dull, but you'd go through the ownership structure and who purchased what property, who paid for the development, and where's it sit now? Because I just think it's something that's worth looking at in terms of all of that kind of stuff. And then I think that, as I said, with the other YouTube shows and things like that, there's a lot of good debate, a lot of good discussion, obviously. But when, people accusing us of this, that, and the other being an Enic's pay or an Enic channel and this, that, and the other, I just think that's a load of nonsense. It's actually just people having a different opinion and talking about it. And I've seen from one particular individual sending DMs to various people, which is borderline harassment and very aggressive. And there's no need for that, because at the end of the day, I know you all love them very much, but it's still only football and there's more important things in life.
Right.
Such as Jimmy Walker.
Like Skriniar to Tottenham, yeah?
Such as what?
Skriniar
to Tottenham, that would be lovely, wouldn't it? Yeah. Can anyone see that?
That's right. And George is actually... Yeah, and like George is, I think, may have watched us for the first time tonight. And as he says, everyone is entitled to their opinions, and he's having a good debate in the chat. It's not abusive, it's not aggressive, and that's what we're all about. And George, I hope you come back and watch us again.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Skriniar, PSG, apparently. Does anyone think he's going to sign in this window for us, Jack?
Absolute neeked again. I think it's with Skriniar from the very beginning. I could tell that he was headed to PSG, and that's not from this window. That's from like the last window. I think it was something like the PSG and Inter Milan had like agreed a fee or something like that, but then Inter Milan like pulled out or whatever it was. I don't really understand how it went, but basically they were already going after each other, PSG and Inter Milan, for Skriniar last summer. It somehow didn't come to some conclusion, or maybe the negotiations dropped. And then Skriniar basically, I think, came out and basically said that he was going to be playing his last season with Inter Milan and going to PSG unless Inter Milan somehow came up with the contract that he wanted in order to stay, which obviously would have been, right, a lot of money and big wages and things like that. And the team that's able to promise that big money and big wages that he wants is PSG. It's also probably more, if you were to think on the financial side, it's more in Skriniar's best interest to sign on a free, because he gets to give himself a big bonus. His agent gets a big bonus, which is nice too. So it's all kind of, I think, in sort of the interest of Skriniar to basically just do what he originally said he was going to do, which is go over to PSG. If he is convinced by a club to come over, then maybe he can in the January, but I really doubt it. I really do doubt it. Maybe he goes to PSG early, but I really doubt he's headed to another club.
Like if you look at the finances or the figures that have come out this week, and you see that when it comes to revenue, the Premier League is king, and it's not even close, right? It was 11 of the top 20 teams with the most revenue in the Premier League. So if you're playing in Serie A, even for a big team like Inter, you're not making the biggest amount of money. You're making good money, but you could be making more playing for West Ham or for Everton or for, any well, to pick two really bad teams, but even Aston Villa. You could probably make more money there. And so the question is, if you do want to go and you don't want to play in the Premier League for whatever reason, well then PSG, who have the highest wage bill in world football, will be your number one choice, because you can get the money that the Premier League would give you, and maybe a much easier lifestyle and a much easier life. And Italian to French is, there are lots of reasons why someone might do the move that Skriniar might make. And so, I understand that, with Spurs, we have lots of money, but, we're competing with teams that, we can't offer everything. Money maybe, but if trophies, and there are other clubs that they might go ahead of us. If it's us or Newcastle, then what do you do? I feel like we're still competing with the teams who are 5th and 6th and 7th when it comes to transfers than we are for the teams that finish 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Arsenal have really well, which they are where they are. But Arsenal weren't competing for those players that were going to, or they were going to Liverpool. They bought from, where did Odegaard come from? I know he was Real Madrid, but he was a Real Madrid reject, as Spurs fans would say. And they've bought well from places that where they could, let's face it. Mm-hmm. And so Spurs need to do that. It's not about getting the biggest name, it's about getting the right player. And Spurs haven't done that for a very long time. And you can hope that maybe Richarlison will be it, but we don't know yet, because he's barely played for Spurs. We've only had half a season, and he's been injured, and there's been a World Cup and all manner of things. So it's just, we do kind of have to wait and hope that Conte will stay around. We'll get another 6 months of that. And at the end of the season, a decision will be made on how we go further. But it's really tough to see Spurs fans wish that we were going for players that like De Jong, who will probably go to a team with more money than we do, when we just aren't that club yet. We are sad to say, but we aren't that club yet. Players don't look at Spurs and see them as their end destination. We are still that kind of stepping stone maybe club, and it's tough for Spurs.
I think it's never been the case.
You don't get that monkey off your back till you win stuff, do you?
Really? Yeah, exactly right. But Spurs have never been the club to, or at least even, I don't know, something that people forget about transfers, I think, is the fact that when you're trying to battle for some of the best players in the world, they have all the clubs in the world to pick from. If Gvardiol is available for 80 million, there will be 10 clubs that will be interested in throwing an 80 million pound bid for Gvardiol, and it's up to Gvardiol amongst the millions of choices that he may have, whichever club he thinks is best. And sad as it may is, not always do they seem to pick Tottenham Hotspur as their number one choice for, where they would like to go. Even if we are capable of throwing in an 80 million pound bid for some of these players, we might not ever actually be their first choice. And that's something else, though, that I think people seem to forget, because the cliche that seems to be thrown in is like, why not just throw 60 million in for Bastoni? And it's like, well, I don't think you're getting it. Bastoni doesn't want to come. Like, he doesn't want to leave. No matter how many 60 millions we throw in his club's face, he doesn't want to leave. And the same thing can be with Skriniar, and the same thing has been the case, I think, with other players that we've pursued. And it's a sad case for us to come to realization with, but it's just the case that some of these really high profile players that we pursue have a lot of choices. It's how it is.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing that frustrates me about Skriniar, and what sums up Enic for me again, is that 2 to 3 years ago, we were in to buy him. We didn't agree to deal with him. And instead we got Joe Rodon in, cheaper potential, right? And then the return, and at a cost of 16 million quid, GB2 for a year. Where, I mean, whatever you want to say about them, you had Moura and Bergwijn up front. Mourinho is a defensive manager. He wants Skriniar. We give him Joe Rodon and GB2, who Levy wanted, but Mourinho didn't, and that sums up the whole thing. I mean, I saw some pictures of GB this week. I mean, in the sporting context, I thought he'd retired. Oh yeah, sorry.
Is that a joke? Because it doesn't really register. Like, yeah, he retired from football and now he plays golf. It's a different sport. Maybe he goes 10-pin bowling on a Monday night with his wife
lifestyle
and kids.
hasn't changed very much at all, really. He's just made a retirement announcement.
I just said that comment flying in the air. It landed in Brooklyn and Vienna just in time.
I would say, Dave, just to challenge it slightly. I know we agreed earlier that it is, it's with the way that Spurs operate, they want to operate like a Brentford and a Brighton, and they shouldn't because of the obscene ticket prices and the things we went over. But you could see why, with the purchasing of players like Joe Rodon, that is kind of somebody that like a Brighton or a Brentford would maybe go after for the low money. It's just that I think we've employed, because of Daniel Levy, but we've employed, I think, kind of incompetent people like Steve Hitchen, who, even if you gave him no money at all, he's still not going to get you a good player. If you gave him 400 million, he's still not going to get you a good player. So I think that's also kind of an element, is that even if we did give money to some of these directors of football that we've had in the past, it's not like they would have done very much with it. And I think that's another thing to point out. So like, he could have actually brought in a Matoma. Like, we saw how much, players like Matoma and Caicedo and players that have been brought into Brentford, they've been brought in for absolute no money at all. And Steve Hitchen didn't even bother to bring in like a recruitment department or a scouting department of any kind. He didn't even revamp it. He didn't even do anything to it. He just kept it the same, or I think basically just put himself in charge of it. So there is also the fact that while the money wasn't very much to work with, it was also very much mishandled, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I mean, I know you do like to really scapegoat Hitchen, right? And I don't think it's as black and white as that, right? Because, I think Pochettino's record in the transfer market after Paul Mitchell went is pretty poor, right? And as I said, Hitchen was set up nicely as a fall guy in that documentary. There's no that.
He was the one that took over from Paul Mitchell, wasn't he?
Yep.
He took over from Paul Mitchell. That is true. But I honestly think Poch wanted Lo Celso, Ndombele. I'm not sure about Sessegnon. I'm pretty sure he didn't want Jack Clark. So Poch's recruitment is not all that. It's just, as you say, the question of who Levy appoints to do the work that he shouldn't be doing. He's just not very good at. And it seems that with Paratici, he hasn't done his due diligence there either, and that's turned out to be.
Maybe if we had like Brighton's director of football is what I mean, or maybe if we had Brentford's director of football. Basically, if we had smarter people in charge, even if there wasn't very much money to work with, the money would have been better invested, and we would not have had as many problems as we do today.
I agree.
Do you know where Brighton's director of football went?
Chelsea.
To Newcastle.
Oh, I thought he was going to Chelsea. I thought I heard that.
No, I think Chelsea, like one of Southampton's guys went to Chelsea, but Dan Ashworth, who was at West Brom and then at England, and then he went to Brighton. He left Brighton to go to Newcastle when the Saudis took over. This is like a year ago. And so there's clearly something to it. And whoever is in charge of Brentford's decision-making may well get headhunted. What I find really weird, like if Poch is
Or get
looking for some
Salzburg's.
kind of...
I feel like we could get Salzburg's director of football and people like that. Like, there are smarter
again,
people, I think, than Hitchin.
But Salzburg's, I mean, it's weird. Like Salzburg's, like their kind of ethos is different. They want players who are under 20, the best under 20 players in Europe, because they know that that's their role. Salzburg's role is to give those players a chance to play regular football. They'll play Champions League every season, and then they'll move on. Maybe they'll go to Leipzig, which is what the Red Bull system want, or maybe they'll go and be sold on somewhere else. But that is Salzburg's thing. Salzburg don't sign players who are like over 22 often. They really don't. They've just signed an Israeli guy this week for like 7 million euros, and he played for Israel against England in the under-17s Euros final last summer. Scored for Israel. I was there. I watched it. He's a really, really, really good player who you can totally see in 2-3 years will be at Leipzig or somewhere else in Europe. But that's Salzburg's thing. I think that for Spurs, like if identifying players is the issue, going out and getting Perisic, at least on surface, seems like a good idea, because Juventus had won plenty of titles while he was there. Maybe not as the main guy, but while he was there was this idea that he could spot a player. But when you're at Juventus, you can basically get any Italian player you want, because it's Juventus, right? Juventus are the Manchester United of Italy. Like they go to Fiorentina every 2 or 3 years and buy their best player, guaranteed. They did it with Chiesa. Was Roberto Baggio, I think, was back then, yeah. So it just feels as if, like, if you want someone to do what Spurs are, which is get from in German they would say the sub-top, right? To get from the sub-top to the top, then you need to find someone who has shown an ability to find players that can get you up a level. Whatever money you've got to spend, you need to find players that can get you up a level. And it's like Spurs right now, like when we bought Dombele for 60 million, when 18 months earlier he went to Lyon, that's the time when Spurs should have been getting him, when he left to go to Lyon. That's kind of where we are. So if I think about the teams around Europe that have made big progress in the last 4 or 5 years, the obvious one to me is Frankfurt, because they went from a relegation side pretty much, and they went they managed to get into Europe, they won the German Cup, they went into Europe, and then they finally got to the Champions League by winning the Europa League, and here they are in the last 16 of the Champions League, and they're getting players that they could never have dreamed of before, and they're signing well. They got the French striker Kolo Muani on a free, who looks like they'll get loads of money for him when they sell him. Not that they really want to get lots of money, but they realise that that's how they build their club. And I think this year they were, it sounds awful, 21st or 22nd in revenue, but for Frankfurt, that's massive. They are a much bigger brand or club or whatever, and so players now look at them and say, maybe I won't go to Leipzig and play, but I'll go to Frankfurt and play, and I'll play regularly. And so it just feels as if the people in charge of those kind of progressions is what Spurs need. And it's frustrating when we're in a situation where Perisic may well be out of football for 18 months, 2 years, whatever it is, and the guy who took Frankfurt to where they are now works for Watford.
Yeah.
And you just think...
So it should be easy to poach, right? Should be easy to poach.
That's, exactly. And I just don't think you don't just give an incompetent person more money and expect him to do better. That's what I just think. I think you bring in somebody who's done very well with very little money, and then give him more money and see how he does. But we didn't do that. We decided which is a failure of Levy, not exactly a failure of Hitchin. It's not Hitchin's fault that he got promoted to maybe a job that he was incapable of doing. But at the end of the day, I think he was very much incapable of doing that job and, failed drastically. And that's how I see it. But it's also Levy's fault for hiring such a guy or promoting such a guy that was clearly very incompetent at his job. If that's how you put it.
I mean, the points that you made are really good points in terms of. So when we were looking for the director of football,
I'll just say, my drummer, thanks for your support. He's just signed up to Choose Room, so appreciate that. And Patreon, I think you'll love the Patreon. I really genuinely do. Lots of chat. We'll get you straight in our chat room group. There's about 70, 80 Spurs fans in there. All sorts of topics. Really good value. £3 a month if anyone else wants to sign up. Patreon.com/Choose Room podcast. Thanks for your support, my drummer. Sorry, HG.
I think it was Dave, wasn't it?
Yeah, and if anyone
Sorry,
can help
Dave.
him get in the if anyone can technically help him get the emblem, can
No,
someone
he's
help
got
him
it now.
out?
No, he's got it.
Oh,
Yeah, he's
good.
got he's got the membership. So yeah, he's got it.
Good, because I haven't got a clue technically. Look, the director of football bit, and these are all good points that you've made, because it's like you get a director of football who is good at scouting younger talent and the more bargain signing potential to do that, which we're
If that's
not
how
very
you
good
want
at.
to do it, yeah.
Well, which is how we seem to be the model is, despite
exactly.
charging the highest prices in the land. Another, when we were looking at the director of football, two names that I chucked into the mix is the guy who was at Leicester. I think he's left Cogiton or something like that. Mm-hmm. I thought Leicester's recruitment has been fantastic. I think he's left now and he's gone abroad. I don't know how he's doing there. And the other one is, and everyone will laugh, was Ralph Rangnick, because as a director of football, I think that he had a good record. He obviously knew his networks and this, that, and the other. It's not his fault that he was made a complete basket case for the job of Man United, and he's lost credibility for that. But what Levy likes to do now, because Levy thinks with the big stadium and the Champions League final, is that the brand, which has been enhanced by Levy and Enic, we should get the brand name. So Paratici was at Juventus. And I'll never forget the interview, that the rare Levy missive that he gave on Levy Vision was in all the discussions and I've had with Paratici over the years. No, you haven't. You had one discussion about Dybala. So you just span us that one as well. So that's what he does. And HG said at the time, and he repeated it tonight, is, yeah, Juventus have done very well. And yes, he's structured some free, getting players on free signings, because it's Juventus. It's the biggest name in the league. We're not. And it's different. So Paratici will go. What concerns me is he's hired someone from Everton in a recruitment role, and they're not doing very well, are
they? I think Paratici, I should say, will go at some point, like everybody, but I don't see it being particularly soon, because there's an appeal process and that can take like a year. So I do think there's plenty of time to think out a replacement for Paratici. And I think, it's not done yet, is what I would say.
I don't know this, but if there is a situation where, and I don't know if he makes an appeal, but by the fact that he's appealed and loses, and you get a longer penalty, and I don't know if that's
appealing, though, aren't they? I think all the people that are implicated are appealing. So,
yeah,
and it's not gone to criminal either yet, which it will do.
A queue at appeals court in Italy.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, but these things do take a lot of time. So I think from a Spurs perspective, we've got time to plan. Would be what I'd say.
But from my understanding in the criminal process, I thought that the Italian authorities opened it up and had a look at it last year, and then they announced that they weren't bringing any charges. But now it's the footballing authorities or tax or whatever footballing that's investigating, and that's where the bans come in. So I thought from a criminal perspective, that's what they said last year. We're not bringing any charges.
Yeah.
Either way, it's yet another Spurs shit show.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for players who are interested in coming to Spurs, they're going to get paid very well, so they know that, right? So the money is not really an issue. But if you're competing with other teams, then right now the manager is everything, right? And you can look at Arsenal and you can look at Man City and Liverpool, and they've got three managers that are set, right? They're not going anywhere, and it looks like Ten Hag might be another, right? Eddie Howe, there's always going to be this idea that if Newcastle might outgrow him, but still, like Chelsea have trying to figure out what things are, and Spurs still, like, we've got a manager with a massive name who players may want to play for. I don't doubt that, but it'll be Italian players, which is kind of people who know the Italian league, which is why we've had success getting Bentancur and Kulusevski. It will be interesting to see just how much Conte can attract people if he stays. If he doesn't stay, with it being Levy, he'll go for the biggest name he can get, right? And if that's Tuchel or if it's Poch, that's going to be his choice. That's where he's going to look. He's not going to look for the next up-and-coming thing. Maybe he should, but I'm not sure he will. And weirdly enough, I'm not sure the fans want him to either. So everyone is kind of operating on a different level, and it's really difficult. Like a lot of fans wanted Conte. I wanted Conte because he was the biggest name there. He was the best manager. He'd won stuff. So you wanted to see that. And I knew that it was a short-term thing, but it just felt like, well, it's the most obvious. We spent 10 weeks trying to find Nuno, for crying out loud. Like, there was a guy out there who had done stuff, who was going to, kind of increase Spurs' standing amongst the football world, if nothing else. And we're at a situation now that, not even 18 months later, we're here again. It's really difficult because everybody wants something different. And whether it's Levy trying to make money on players or getting young English players that he's seen on TV that he liked, or whether it's Conte trying to get established players, or whether it's Perisic trying to somehow bridge the gap, and the fans want this because they're paying full whack for tickets. Like, it's kind of, this direction just isn't there, and nobody really knows what the best way is. Got different ideas on it.
Okay. Well, look, we've been going 2 hours now. We are not going to drag on for a 5-hour show, but it's been an absolute pleasure spending the evening with you three gents. Davo, thanks so much for joining us from your aviary this evening.
It's a pleasure. How we've managed to get 2 hours out of Preston preview. Well done, everybody.
Absolute skills. And for those asking, Patreon, there are the details, patreon.com/Cheese Room Podcast. This is great, by the way. Exclusive content. So there's interviews with people on the video interviews, audio interviews, pod exclusives, some written articles, prizes and discounts. We do prizes for all our competitions. There's some great ones this season, I think, including some signed memorabilia for the winners of the Fantasy Football League. I know you'll want to say something about that, Davo, because you're near the top of it, aren't you, right now?
No, not anymore. I'm doing really shit. I'm doing really shit.
And we have Predict to Score every weekend. You do get Cheese Room merch with after 6 months. You qualify for the mug, the T-shirt, and the pin badge, and the chat group, which, to be honest, is worth the £3 a month itself. Chat with like-minded people 24/7, because there's people from all around the world, like Dave from the world down under. You can abuse Dave on there, so if nothing else, that is worth £3 a month. So thanks for joining us, Dave. HG, thanks all the way from Vienna for joining us once again and giving us your take on Tottenham.
No problem. This is one thing. For the people who asked earlier, this is the chocolate that I've got. Almond and orange. I was given it by one of my students today, but it looks like it comes from Lidl. So, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I believe you. And Jack, all the way from the Irish Hotspur, and of course, flat cap Euro Talk, fat clap.
Did you just call him Fat Clap? Fat Clap Jack.
Clap Euro Talk. Clap.
He's saying it.
Thanks for having me. Feeling donk. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I enjoyed this. This was nice. I think we got, like I said, I got my flash, my flash course on sort of Preston, and we covered a lot of other things as well.
There you go. And thanks for all our patrons. Thanks to all our chat room, YouTube chat groups. I'm drunk. I've time for bed. In the meantime, we're going to be impressed. We're going to advance to the 5th round. Of course we are. Never a doubt. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.